Diane Sawyer has spent 5 decades asking the questions that matter. From her groundbreaking work on 60 Minutes to her legendary tenure at ABC News, she's become the journalist celebrities turn to when they want serious, thoughtful conversation. She's interviewed every president since Nixon, sat with dictators and dissidents, and somehow made even the most guarded subjects reveal truths they meant to hide. Her secret has always been the same: genuine curiosity, delivered with warmth that makes people forget they're being interviewed. She thought she'd seen everything, but on an autumn afternoon, in a carefully staged Montecito living room, Diane Sawyer encountered something that tested even her legendary patience. A duchess so convinced of her own importance that she couldn't recognize respect when it sat across from her. So defensive that every question became an attack. So determined to control the conversation that she forgot who she was talking to. Within 25 minutes, Meghan Markle would do something no subject had ever accomplished with Diane Sawyer: make her end an interview early. Not because of time constraints, not because of technical issues, but because continuing had become impossible. Before we dive into this incredible story, make sure you hit subscribe and smash that like button. Now, let's get into what really happened in that Montecito living room. The setting was deliberately intimate, a sunlit living room in the Montecito estate. This was meant to feel like a conversation between equals, not a formal interview. Diane Sawyer arrived with her characteristic elegance, understated but unmistakable. The presence of someone who'd earned every ounce of her reputation. She reviewed her notes while the crew made final adjustments, her expression thoughtful. She specifically requested you, the producer had told her earlier, said she wanted someone who would understand complexity. Diane had smiled. I understand complexity. I also understand evasion. We'll see which one shows up. Meghan entered the room with an entourage that seemed excessive. Handlers, a publicist, someone adjusting her lighting, another repositioning the flowers for better camera angles. Diane watched this choreography with the patient attention of someone cataloging details for later use. Finally, the handlers retreated, leaving the two women alone except for the cameras. Meghan settled into her chair, crossing her legs with practiced elegance. Her smile was wide but calculated, the expression of someone who'd rehearsed in front of mirrors. Diane, thank you for doing this. Thank you for having me here. Beautiful home. It's our sanctuary. The word was delivered with significance, as if sanctuary meant something more profound than simply house. I'm sure it is. Shall we begin? The cameras started rolling. Diane's posture was relaxed, her voice carrying that distinctive warmth that had disarmed subjects for decades. So, Meghan, let's start simply. How are you? And I mean really, not the prepared answer. Meghan tilted her head, her expression shifting to something almost condescending. I'm wonderful. Thriving, actually. Though I find it curious that everyone asks me that with such skepticism. As if they expect me to say otherwise. No skepticism here, just genuine interest. You've been through a great deal publicly. I'm curious how you're actually experiencing this chapter. I'm experiencing it beautifully. America has embraced us in ways the UK never could. Diane nodded thoughtfully. Has it? Because the recent news hasn't been entirely embracing. The Netflix situation, the Met Gala, certain projects not materializing. How do you navigate that? Meghan's expression flickered, the first hint of defensiveness. I navigate it by focusing on what matters. Headlines are noise. My work is what endures. Tell me about that work. What's exciting you right now? We're doing transformative things through the Archwell Foundation. Mental health advocacy, women's empowerment, environmental sustainability. Real, substantive work that creates lasting change. That sounds meaningful. Can you give me a specific example? Something concrete that you're particularly proud of? Meghan's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. Why does everyone always want specifics? The work speaks for itself. If people need a highlight reel to believe in what we're doing, they're missing the point entirely. Diane's smile remained, but her eyes sharpened. I'm not asking for a highlight reel. I'm giving you an opportunity to share. Our viewers would love to understand what the foundation actually does. Then perhaps your viewers could visit our website rather than expecting me to provide a tutorial. The condescension was unmistakable now. Diane paused, letting the moment settle. Meghan, I've interviewed hundreds of people about their philanthropic work. Almost all of them are eager to share specifics, because specifics help people connect with the mission. Your reluctance is unusual. My reluctance is self-protective. Every time I share something personal, it gets picked apart, analyzed for authenticity, questioned. By whom? By media, by critics, by people who've decided I'm the villain regardless of what I do. I'm not here to pick anything apart. I'm here to understand. But understanding requires information. You can't ask people to believe in work you won't describe. The tension in the room was building. Diane remained composed. She always remained composed. But there was a new precision to her questions. Let's talk about something current. The Met Gala happened recently. You weren't there this year. I noticed you've been to major fashion events before. Meghan's composure cracked slightly. A flash of something that might have been hurt before she composed herself. I wasn't invited this year. Oh, I assumed it was a scheduling conflict. Not being invited seems significant. These things fluctuate. Guest lists change year to year. But you're a duchess. You've been on countless magazine covers. You're considered a fashion icon by many. Not being invited to the biggest fashion event of the year seems like more than a fluctuation. Meghan's voice tightened. I don't speculate about Anna Wintour's decisions, but you've speculated extensively about the palace's decisions. Why is Anna Wintour different? Because the palace actively worked against me. Anna Wintour simply made an invitation decision. Those aren't comparable. Aren't they? Both are institutions making choices about your inclusion or exclusion. You've built your narrative around examining institutional decisions. Why is this one off limits? Meghan shifted in her seat, clearly uncomfortable. It's not off limits. It's just not important. You seemed affected when I brought it up. Your expression changed. I'm not affected. You are. And that's understandable. Exclusion hurts, regardless of the source. I'm just curious why you're willing to discuss one form of institutional rejection extensively and not another. Meghan's face flushed. Because one was racism and institutional cruelty. The other is a party invitation. They're not the same thing. Perhaps not. But both suggest that maybe the embrace you expected in America hasn't fully materialized. The Met Gala, the Netflix cancellations, the Spotify situation. There's a pattern of doors that seemed open beginning to close. There's no pattern. There's observable evidence. I'm asking you to help me understand it. Diane shifted topics, her approach gentle but relentless. Speaking of Netflix, several of your projects have been canceled recently. The animated series, some documentary concepts. What happened? Meghan's expression hardened. Projects evolve. That's the entertainment industry. Not every concept makes it to production. But these were announced publicly. There was fanfare. And then they quietly disappeared. That's not evolution. That's cancellation. The terminology doesn't matter. It does, actually. Evolution suggests organic change. Cancellation suggests someone made a decision that the projects weren't working. Which is it? Our focus shifted to other priorities. What priorities specifically? I'm not going to provide a business breakdown of our internal decisions. I'm not asking for a breakdown. I'm asking a simple question. Why did projects you publicly announced not happen? Because we chose to focus on other things. Which things? Meghan's voice rose slightly. You're being deliberately obtuse. Diane's expression didn't change. I'm asking follow-up questions. That's what interviews are. You've given me vague answers about evolution and priorities without explaining what any of that actually means. I'm pushing for clarity. Clarity isn't always possible when discussing creative work. Clarity is always possible. You're choosing not to provide it. That's different. The distinction landed with precision. Meghan's composure was cracking more visibly now. Let's try a different subject, Diane said smoothly. How's Harry? The walls went up instantly. Meghan's entire demeanor shifted, closing off, becoming guarded. I'd prefer not to discuss my husband. Diane's eyebrows rose gently. You'd prefer not to discuss him at all? This interview is about me, my work, my perspective. But Harry is central to everything you've built together. The foundation is joint. The Netflix deal is joint. Your entire public narrative is joint. How can we discuss your life without discussing him? By focusing on my individual contributions, which are what specifically? Because from the outside, it's difficult to identify where the partnership ends and individual work begins. I have my own identity. I'm sure you do, but you haven't shown it publicly. Everything we know about your post-royal life involves Harry. So when you say you don't want to discuss him, you're essentially saying you don't want to discuss your public existence. Meghan's jaw flexed. There are rumors I need to address since you're pushing this. I'm not pushing anything. The divorce rumors, the separation speculation, they're completely false. Malicious lies from tabloids that want to destroy us. We're stronger than ever. Our marriage is solid. Diane nodded slowly. I appreciate you addressing that directly. Though I notice I didn't ask about divorce. I asked how Harry was doing. Why did your mind go immediately to divorce? Meghan stiffened. Because that's what the media keeps suggesting. I'm not the media in that sense. I asked a simple question about your husband. You interpreted it as asking about divorce. That interpretation is yours, not mine. I know what people are really asking when they bring up Harry. What are they really asking? They're asking if the rumors are true, if we're separating, if the marriage is falling apart. I was asking how he's doing. That's all. The Divorce Association came entirely from you. That's interesting. Meghan's face reddened. You're twisting my words. I'm observing your associations. There's a difference. When someone asks about your husband, and you immediately defend against divorce accusations no one made, it suggests divorce is on your mind more than you're admitting. It's not on my mind. Then why was it your first association? Meghan had no answer. Diane leaned back slightly, her expression thoughtful. Meghan, I want to be direct with you. I've been conducting interviews for over 50 years. I've spoken with presidents, survivors, people in the most challenging circumstances imaginable. Almost all of them, even in their most difficult moments, managed to engage with questions without treating me as an adversary. I'm not treating you as an adversary. You've told me your viewers should visit your website, rather than expect explanations from you. You've accused me of being deliberately obtuse. You've interpreted neutral questions as attacks. That's adversarial behavior, Meghan. It's protective behavior. There's a difference. Protection from what? I've asked about your work, your projects, your husband. These are standard interview topics. If they feel threatening, perhaps examine why. Because every interview becomes an attack. Every question is designed to catch me in something. What have I tried to catch you in? I've asked open-ended questions and given you complete freedom to answer however you'd like. You've chosen defensiveness. That's not my doing. It's yours. Meghan stood up slightly, then sat back down, a false start that betrayed her agitation. You don't understand what I've been through. Then help me understand. I've been trying to understand for 20 minutes. Every time I ask a question, you treat it as hostile. Every time I push for clarity, you accuse me of twisting words. At some point, the pattern suggests the problem might not be the questions. What are you implying? I'm not implying anything. I'm stating. You came here saying you wanted to share your perspective, to be understood, but you've made understanding impossible. You've blocked every attempt at genuine conversation. Meghan's composure was fully cracking now. Her face was flushed, her voice rising. I came here wanting to talk about my work, about what I'm building, about making a difference, and I've asked about all those things. You've given me vague generalities and told me to visit your website. That's not sharing, that's deflecting. Because specifics get weaponized. By whom? I've conducted this interview with complete respect. I've asked no gotcha questions. I've pursued no hidden agenda. You've treated me as an enemy from the moment you sat down. That's not true. It's demonstrably true. The cameras have captured everything. Our viewers will see exactly what happened. A journalist asking gentle questions, and a subject treating them as warfare. Meghan grabbed her water glass, took a long sip, then set it down with more force than necessary. This isn't working. No, it isn't. And I think we need to acknowledge why. Because you won't give me a fair platform. I've offered nothing but fairness. Every question has been respectful. Every opportunity to share has been genuine. You've declined them all while insisting you want to be understood. That's contradiction, Meghan. And at some point, I have to recognize that continuing isn't productive. Meghan stared at Diane, seeming to finally register that something had shifted. What do you mean, not productive? I mean that I can't interview someone who won't be interviewed. I can't understand someone who won't be understood. I've been doing this work for 50 years. I know when a conversation is possible and when it isn't. This one isn't. Diane's expression carried something unexpected. Not anger, not frustration, but something closer to disappointment. Meghan, I'm going to be honest with you. I agreed to this interview because I believed you had a genuine story to tell. I thought, despite everything written about you, there might be a real person underneath the headlines who deserved a fair hearing. There is. Maybe, but I haven't met her today. I've met someone so guarded, so defensive, so convinced of her own persecution that she can't recognize basic professional courtesy. I asked about your foundation. You told me to consult your website. I asked about your projects. You accused me of being obtuse. I asked about your husband. You immediately defended against accusations I never made. Because I'm tired. Everyone's tired, Meghan. The world is full of tired people who manage to have conversations without treating every question as an attack. Fatigue isn't an excuse for hostility. Meghan stood up fully now, her composure finally breaking. Diane didn't stand. She just looked up at Meghan with an expression mixing sadness with resolution. Maybe it was. But not for the reasons you think. What's that supposed to mean? You came here expecting control. When you couldn't control the conversation, you became hostile. When hostility didn't work, you decided to leave. That's a pattern, isn't it? It's not a pattern. It's exactly a pattern. You've done this before. When things don't go your way, you exit. The palace, the UK, interviews that challenge your narrative. The specific circumstances change, but the response is consistent. Departure instead of engagement. I engage plenty. You engage with friendly audiences. Platforms you control. Interviewers who accept your framing without question. This is something different. This is someone asking you to substantiate your claims, and you can't do it. Meghan grabbed her purse, her movements sharp with controlled fury. I don't need to substantiate anything to you. No, you don't. But you came here wanting to be understood. You can't be understood without substance, and substance is exactly what you've refused to provide. I've provided plenty. You've provided talking points. Thriving, transformative work, systemic change. These are words without content. When I pushed for content, you got defensive. When I kept pushing, you got hostile. That tells me the words might be all there is. Meghan's face contorted with barely suppressed rage. How dare you? I dare because it's my job. 50 years of journalism has taught me to recognize the difference between people with genuine stories and people performing stories. I'm not sure which you are, but your behavior today suggests you're not sure either. You don't know anything about me. I know what you've shown me, and what you've shown me, today, in this room, is someone who can't engage with gentle questions without treating them as attacks. Someone who came here wanting sympathy, but refusing to offer substance. Someone who wants to be understood, but makes understanding impossible. Diane stood now, slowly and deliberately. I'm going to end this interview, Meghan. Not because of time, we had another hour scheduled. Not because of any external factor, but because continuing serves no purpose. You won't answer questions. You won't share specifics. You won't engage with anything that challenges your narrative. There's no interview to be had. Meghan stood frozen, caught between her desire to leave and the unexpected development of being stopped before she could. You can't just end this. I can. It's my interview. I decide when it works and when it doesn't. And this doesn't work. What about your viewers? They're expecting a conversation. What they'll see is one person trying to have a conversation and another refusing. That's the story. Not the one you planned. but the real one. It will make me look like a journalist who recognized when an interview became impossible and had the integrity to stop. That's not a bad look. Meghan's voice dropped to something cold. You'll regret this. Diane smiled slightly, not mockingly, but with something like weary recognition. People have been threatening my regret for 50 years. Presidents, corporate executives, world leaders. None of them were right. I doubt you will be either. I'm not threatening. Yes, you are. It's what you do when you can't control something. You threaten consequences. But consequences require power, and the power here isn't with you. It's with the footage, which will show exactly what happened. Meghan stared at Diane for a long moment. Something flickered behind her eyes. Maybe recognition of how badly this had gone. Maybe just more anger. It was impossible to tell. Goodbye, Diane. Goodbye, Meghan. I hope you find whatever you're searching for, but I don't think you'll find it by treating everyone as your enemy. Meghan turned and walked out of the living room, her heels clicking against the hardwood until a door closed somewhere in the distance. Diane sat alone in the silence for a moment, then turned to face the camera. Well, that was unexpected. In 50 years of conducting interviews, I've never had to end one early because a subject made continuing impossible. I've spoken with dictators who were more forthcoming. I've interviewed people in crisis who engaged more openly. She paused, gathering her thoughts. I want to be clear about what happened here. I asked Meghan Markle about her life, her work, her family, her recent experiences in the public eye. Standard topics for any interview. She treated each question as an attack. When I pushed for specifics about her foundation work, she told me viewers should consult her website. When I asked about her husband, she immediately defended against divorce accusations no one had made. When I noted observable facts about her public standing, the Met Gala, Netflix cancellations, she accused me of hostility. Diane shook her head slowly. That's not hostility, that's journalism. Asking people to explain their public statements and public actions isn't an attack. It's basic accountability. What I experienced today was someone so accustomed to controlled environments that normal conversation felt like combat. She looked directly into the camera. I feel for her. I genuinely do. Whatever she's been through has left her unable to distinguish between enemies and people simply doing their jobs. I wasn't her enemy. I was a journalist offering a platform. She couldn't see that. Maybe she can't see it with anyone anymore. She paused. I hope she finds help. I hope she finds peace. But I also hope she learns that peace isn't something you find by treating everyone as a threat. Some of us are just trying to understand, and understanding requires participation from both sides. The interview lasted 24 minutes before Diane ended it. Its impact would last considerably longer. For Diane Sawyer, it was a disappointing milestone. The first interview in her legendary career that couldn't be completed because a subject made it impossible. For Meghan Markle, it was something else. Proof that her defensive approach wasn't working. Evidence that even the most sympathetic, professional journalists couldn't reach her through the walls she'd built. The footage showed exactly what had happened. A journalist extending every possible opportunity, and a duchess treating each one as a weapon. Some conversations illuminate, others expose. And some subjects are so convinced they're under attack that they can't recognize an open hand when it reaches toward them. Diane had reached. Meghan had retreated. And the cameras had captured it all. What do you think? Was Diane right to end the interview? Or should she have continued trying? Who would you want to see Diane interview next? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like this video to help it reach more people. Subscribe to our channel for more explosive celebrity moments.